Welcome to Exhausted Sparrows Unite. I am your host, Krista Jones, with my beautiful co-host, Chantel Schaefer. And we are talking about something that I am feeling so deeply today. You know that low hum in your chest, the racing thoughts that you're having, that sudden, why in the world am I sweating in the grocery store moment? Yeah. We're talking about anxiety, something that today I'm trying to swallow down as I get through this podcast. It's not just something that you're dealing with. It's something that we need to understand, right? We're going to pull it apart today, kind of like a tangled up necklace. We're going to normalize it. We're going to define it. We're going to kind of talk about when it is a problem, and we're going to embrace when it's not, because guess what? Sometimes it's not a problem at all. It's just something normal. It's not here to destroy us. It is a signal for something. So the question is, are you listening to it, or are you just trying to shut it up as Krista Jones is doing right now? Hello, everyone, and welcome. Hi, Chantel Schaefer.
Good morning, Krista Jones.
What a great day to be recording this podcast, as a million things are going on here at work. And Chantel goes, which one do you want to do today? Because we've got like so many great ones like that. I'm like, gosh, I just don't know. And she's like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, let's pull anxiety right out of the good old hat and let's just do that.
It is a deep, heavy subject.
It is. But you know what else? We need to lighten the load of how deeply we feel about it and how Twitter-pated we get over it.
You really like that word.
I think Twitter-pated is from Winnie the Pooh.
Is it?
I think so. I think that's where I got the word. And then I was like, I'm never going to stop using the word Twitter-pated. I like the word. We get all twisted and we get all emotional, and we talk about in every podcast, almost everything that we actually do an episode on is somewhere buried in our podcast and themes to the podcast. And then we have all these, great ideas and things that we want to do. And, we just kind of pull the hat and we do them. And a lot of people are like, well, don't you research that for like 4 weeks and 18 hours? And no, because it's really an authentic thing. I want to have like just a normal conversation about whatever is going on that day. And today I'm like, it's anxiety, and we are going to do it. Because, there's a lot going on here. We are Sparrow's Nest, a charity here in the Hudson Valley. We feed families and individuals that are going through cancer diagnoses, which talk about having some anxiety, talk about a diagnosis that can really change your world and throw you this curveball. So we work with families and individuals that are sick. We make them homemade meals every single week. We don't repeat a recipe at all for a full year, which, is a lot of fun to do. And we're feeding, we're well on our way to 500 people a week here in the Hudson Valley, small little area, about 4 to 5 counties in New York. And if you are listening to us in Australia, in Italy, and like all these cool places that we see that you're tuning in, welcome. We're just this little bitty community here. Started the podcast because we are exhausted. We're tired. And I did a post, and this is really why the podcast started. I did a post about a year ago, and it was not one of my normal posts. And I said, hey guys, send me some prayers. I packed the phone in my daughter's lunch today. I forgot 3 meetings, and
were your keys in the refrigerator?
Keys were in the refrigerator. I think that's really, honestly, I think that's kind of what it was.
A picture of your keys in the refrigerator.
Yeah. And I think, it was a lighthearted post, like just to let you know, like every single thing that could go wrong today did. And I had so many people that were so concerned. I thought, well, that's dangerous, because you think that my life is so together, and my life is just like your life. And all of these things that I just admitted to you aren't even big deals. Like, we need to laugh and joke about them, and we need to move on. And, obviously the people who I missed the meeting, they may not have been laughing, but I'm human. And then I'm like, we need to do something about this. We need to let people see that in the middle of all this, because we have a really great following here, we want people to see, like, we don't have it together. So that's kind of where we are today. And today the subject is anxiety, and we have a million things here. And that's exactly what happened today here. I have this cute group of 4th, 5th graders that are going to be coming in. They had to reschedule. So their reschedule happened to be today. I totally forgot then that KeyBank is coming in to do their whole day of volunteering because I was in the Bahamas when this went down. All good problems, first world problems. And, I've got to go get eggs and I got to figure out a pickleball tournament. So, and then Chantel is like, we didn't record yet. And I was like, fantastic.
So here we are.
And in the middle of all of this, my youngest suffers from anxiety. Really, 2 of my 3 children suffer from anxiety. My youngest, debilitating anxiety. So today, I walked it out in a way that I kind of left the house and I was like, oh, as a mom, you try everything. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. We're talking about if you have it. We're even talking about how do you walk it out with someone in your life that you love that has it. I listened to this amazing podcast. Mel, I think Mel Robinson is her name.
Robbins.
Not Gibbons. Yeah, not Gibson.
Robbins.
Yeah. She's Mel Robbins. She had on also this amazing professor from Harvard. His name is Dr. David Rosemarin, and he also had some great things to say. So I'm just wrapping it all together in just what I know from experience, what I've listened to from these amazing professors and therapists that just happen to bless me in my life. And kind of here we go. So let's start, Chantel, because that was 6 minutes of just not even taking a breath. Let's start about talking how, and I hope that when you hear this, you're going to breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. How anxiety means you're actually normal. You are not broken.
Yeah. And I mean, we start dealing with anxiety as children, and it's an important part of childhood. I read a book by Jonathan Haidt called The Anxious Generation, and it's about how social media is increasing anxiety and depression in children. And I picked up this quote about things like anxiety. And it says, just as the immune system must be exposed to germs and trees must be exposed to wind, children require exposure to setbacks, failures, shocks, and stumbles in order to develop strength and self-reliance. And that's the same thing with anxiety. It builds us stronger. It makes us think. It makes us problem solve.
And it shows us that there is something that we care about. Mm-hmm. That's why we're getting anxious. We're getting anxious for our first date. We're getting anxious to get a project done at work. All of that is because we care, right? Lack of that is void of emotion. And, you raise a good point. You talk about this starts as children. And Dr. Rosemarin had said something in his podcast that I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. When you come out of the womb as a baby, you are screaming and you are crying because you are in a situation that you are unfamiliar with. And that is a good sign that you come out screaming and crying, he said. And he said, what if the baby comes out and the baby is silent? The first reaction for us is we think something is wrong because you're not reacting to this new environment the way you're supposed to. You're supposed to be anxious. You don't know what in the heck is going on. You need a moment to process it. So you're right. Anxiety starts the moment you were born. He said that and I thought, wow. And then I thought, you're right. That is a normal reaction. And if you don't have that reaction, if you are void of all of that motion, we are immediately saying, is my baby okay? Like, how powerful is that?
It's very powerful. And it's a lot to think about and process because I didn't think about that. I didn't think about babies coming out of the womb and I think about like, yeah, we were nice and warm and cozy and now you're in these bright lights and it's cold.
You're screaming.
But like that is your first introduction to anxiety.
100%. There's forceps. There's people staring at you. There's a bright light now that, think about that. Think about how anxious that is. So even for a baby, that is a normal reaction for a baby. So why can't that be a normal reaction for an adult? And of course, normal is, you're nervous before a date or a test or a project or a flight. And, of course, there is disorders with that. Of course, you can take that to a different level. It's not what we're talking about right now, right? And there is a difference. Like a disorder is when it's kind of disproportionate, right? You are stuck, you are frozen, you are using drugs and alcohol and food and depression and, leads to all those things. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about normal anxiety. And here's the thing, most of us with any anxiety can either develop it into a disorder or can keep it at a normal level. So how great is that you get to control that? How amazing is that? Anxiety actually can enhance performances, right? At moderate levels. Being a little anxious makes you sometimes do a better job. You're looking at anything and everything, right? It sharpens your focus because you're anxious and you don't want to miss anything. You're more alert, right? You're motivated because you want to be prepared so that you get it all good. Speaking in public for the first time, right? You're anxious. So if you're anxious, you're going to prepare, you're going to rehearse. That's great. You don't want to go out there like Krista Jones and just start speaking because you don't know what is going to come out of your mouth. That's not normal.
Do a really good job
because I don't have any anxiety in that area, right? There are going to be areas that I am not anxious in at all. And there are areas that you're not going to be anxious in at all. I mean, we start talking about computers and tech stuff and all of this stuff. And Chantel's like, Krista, I got it. Like, we have to show something on a screen to somebody. And she's like, and you've lost me. I have spiraled into my bed with my covers over my head because that's not me, but that's you.
Yeah. And public speaking for me is because I have this immense fear of saying something stupid.
Which you never would. And you, though, last week on our podcast said, as an empath, you're like, I am in the back of the room. And it was so funny. We had a huge event. We called it our superhero rock and run. And I don't even know, 650, 700, 800 people all over the place in the middle of torrential downpour. And it's so funny how many people came up to me when we were in the rock portion of things. And they said, look, Chantel is in the corner.
That's me.
They noticed it, right? Like you were back there
I was
and
better
you were great.
with the social piece at Superhero, but
you
I
did
will
amazing.
tell you that I crashed so hard afterwards because it takes all of my energy to be that person.
Because that's your anxiousness.
It sure is.
And you were in the back and you were talking to people and I was very proud of you. You were still in the back, but you were social butterfly in the back. But you know what? That was your comfort place. And I was able to look at you back there at one point and I was like, she is comfortable. Like that is, and that's what you do, right? So we all have anxiety in areas that, other people won't. We're all made uniquely. And that's
wonderful.
It is, right? That is, but that's what it is. Feeling anxiety doesn't mean that something's wrong with you, right? Like that's kind of the takeaway with all of this. There's nothing wrong with you at all. More than 80% of us say that we have anxiety multiple times throughout the week, right?
I can see that.
Almost every day, there's a little something that I get anxious with. Yeah. And we're going to talk about, so what do you do with all of that, right? Reframing it and all of this great stuff. But it means that your nervous system is functioning, right? So not only mentally are you over preparing, really alert, like, oh my gosh, thinking about it too much. But, there's like this physical, right? Like your hands are sweaty, right? Your stomach hurts.
I can't. You said palms are sweaty. I'm thinking of that Eminem song, Palms Are Spaghetti, Mom Spaghetti. Like, I can't.
I don't know all the words to that one, but I do like that song. But it's and it's normal. And I think that has to be the takeaway here, right? What matters is how often you're feeling it, how intense it is, and how quickly can you get yourself out of it. There is a song by Zach. Gosh, I can never remember his last name. It is a Christian song, but it is called Fear is a Liar. And I remember being in church one week years ago, around the time that the charity was starting, like I'm talking 10, 12 years ago. And I remember that my pastor at Valley Christian, Pastor Greg, was talking about anxiety. And what he was saying is when you get anxious, a lot of us then start that what if. And we go from, we have to do this event. It is going to rain. there's going to be a tornado. Somebody is going to fall on the course and hurt themselves. Nobody is going to now go to the event. Everybody is going to hate us. The charity is now going to sink because nobody is going to give us a donation again because we're reckless. Like what he said is, fear is a liar. You have wasted so much time now. What you've now done, instead of just saying anxiety is normal, calling it what it is, I'm anxious. This is a big day for me. I'm anxious. You have now, right? Your endorphins are now going and you are feeding your anxiety and you're spending hours losing sleep over things that are probably not going to even happen. And when he said that, I sat back and I thought almost every single time that I spiral, it's never anywhere as bad as my spiral. It's not.
So I don't know if you've seen it. The movie Inside Out. They did a second one.
No, but I've seen the first one and you talk about how much you loved it in the second one.
In the second one, they introduce anxiety.
Oh.
And like she's this twitchy little character, but she takes over the board and she's like, if we don't make the team, then we're not going to have any friends and then we're not going to have anybody to sit with. And she's going and going and going and she turns into this tornado. And then the girl is hyperventilating and she's panicking. And that's what it is. It's this spiral and it just creates this mess inside of you.
Right.
And I think it was kindness and sadness took her by the hand and told her like, it's going to be okay. It is such a beautiful way to explain it to children. And as an adult, it hit me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Even for us sometimes, seeing something that is put that simple, like with childlike, ideas, like for me, sometimes that resonates with me more than, listening to a neurosurgeon who's written 17 books and talking about my brain and how I'm stimulating like that the simplicity of that is, I'm going to go see the movie now.
You really should. And
is it in the movie theaters?
No, it's on Disney Plus. Not sure if you have Disney Plus.
I think I do.
But it's just a nice way that they've normalized that anxiety is a part of you.
Yeah. And also saying like, cut it off before it debilitates you. And I think that's what, when is it too much, right? Like that is the deeper discussion. Like, I don't want people to think that we're just saying, cut it off and you're good and you're done. We understand, because I've lived it. It actually put me in a depression in my 20s. I understand how it can really, suck the life out of you. And anxiety disorders are the most common disorders of mental illness in the United States, but they're also highly treatable, right? The issue is that most people don't seek medical help because they feel stupid and silly and like, I should be able to control this. When we're dealing with my youngest, my husband sometimes gets frustrated and I'll say to him, this is not a big deal for you and me. But the fact that A, B, and C happened for her has debilitated her. Like we have to breathe life into these feelings and say to her, we understand that you are feeling this way, right? You want to validate those feelings. You don't want the person to feel stupid because you want the person to be able to get help and get out of it. And when is it too much? I think I realized it was too much when I had this fear of plans going out with friends. Like I was canceling everything. I was isolating myself. Like I couldn't even like go for a walk. I was engaged at another point in my life. We moved up here from the Chicago, St. Louis area. He moved up here with me and then he left me. So I was living with my parents at the age of 23 when I had been independent since 17. I had no friends. I didn't know anyone. I was working at a local radio station and I had no friends. I was so anxious. And so I couldn't even like go for a walk. I didn't get out. I didn't want to go to work. Like I was in bed. I was avoiding everything. I was avoiding text and emails and errands. And like, that is when it is getting too much for you, I think. And then I think the other thing is when you start self-medicating, which was something I would do with food. Though many people do it with drugs and alcohol, those feelings of anxiety. And let's talk about that. All of those things are only going to make you more anxious.
So it's interesting you say that. So I'm going to protect this person's privacy, but somebody very close to me was self-medicating with alcohol, and it became a very big problem. And when we finally were able to address it and you know, what are we were like 12, 13 years sober now. Congratulations. I love you. She said to me, I was treating what I thought was anxiety with alcohol. And she goes, I have never felt less anxious in my life since I stopped picking up a bottle.
Well, alcohol's a depressant, right? Most drugs are a depressant.
But your brain is in such a place that you think you're helping.
Well, and also, right, you're trying to numb yourself. You don't want to feel things. You just want to be happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
You know, eating for me is something like that, eating my feelings, right? But at the end of the day, when you gain that weight, I'm more depressed. I'm more anxious.
It was a quote from a movie. I eat because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because I eat.
What movie was that from? You're so good with your movies.
It was from an Austin Powers movie.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know he can go that deep, but all right.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
That was a quote in the movie. And I was like,
gosh.
wow, I've been there.
Yeah. But
and it's a cycle.
It is a cycle, right? The kicker is that a lot of times too, you know, people don't seek help because anxiety doesn't mean panic. Some people think, well, I'm not in a panic state. I don't have anxiety, right? But anxiety can be perfectionism. It can be over planning. It could be irritable. It could be procrastinating. That's Krista Jones. When I get, you know, when I'm like, I shut down, I'm like done. Like today we overbooked. So like, I think I cried to you on the phone last night. I went to Sam's Club, grabbed some carrots, and then like shut down. My husband's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm just shutting down.
You have to.
Shutting down.
But when you're in that high of a state of anxiety, it's that fight or flight. And it's this constant moving of your, I don't know if it's your parasympathetic nervous system is constantly going, and it's pumping your body full of adrenaline.
Yes.
And then you crash.
Yes. Because you have, I think you might have said it on one of our episodes. I don't know if you said it or I said it, but you have like 46 tabs open.
Yep.
Right? So your mind is you're just on overload. Yep. And so you're just then shutting it all down too can be a sign. And, you know, of course, you need to get help, you know, 100%. And you should. And there's nothing wrong with that. More than 80% of people that are over the age of 21 have at one point gotten help from a therapist. Sometimes you need medication. Sometimes you need a therapist. Sometimes you need a social group where you can find friends and then go for walks and go bowling and join volleyball leagues and, you know, do all of these things. But the worst thing you can do is isolate. And COVID has made a huge difference in our lives. COVID, I mean, man, if anything like that ever happens again, I hope that they have learned their lesson, because isolating us really has led to us, our children. It has led to so many mental disorders because of it. That isolation has broken our children.
Yeah.
It really has.
And social media hasn't helped with that either.
You're right.
Because they're lacking so much of that social interaction. It's like that quote, like they're not out there skinning their knees, falling down. They're sitting on a tablet and, you know, they're not experiencing those stresses and that anxiety that those childhood experiences.
And you're a computer, you're what? A computer warrior? I don't know what they call it, where keyboard warrior. You're behind a computer. And so you don't really know how to socialize. You're able to be big and tough, you know, like conflict, all of that, like face-to-face interactions. You know, and a lot of people, we worked through the pandemic because our recipients are the ones that had compromised immune systems. We had to get them food. Their families couldn't even go to a grocery store. So we worked the whole thing. But I thought how lucky we were, because for people that were home, I heard so many of my friends say, I am so anxious to go back to work. 2 years later, my boss is making me go back to work. Well, yeah, 2 years afterwards, how anxious is that for you to have to get back in the workforce?
Yeah.
Think about that. And we're adults. Think about now children having to go back to school. All of this anxiety, it is a real thing. And we need to talk about that. Like when is anxiety actually helpful for us? It is helpful. There is a sweet spot where anxiety helps us be accountable, right? Got to be able to get out of bed. It shows us that we're showing up and preparing for things that we need, right? Pointing us to things that really matter to us. All of that is great. If you're anxious, with your job and your health and your family, okay, that's because those things deeply matter to you. But we need to channel it, not eliminate it, right? So we also have to have like boundaries on our anxiety.
Yeah.
Give yourself some time to have a pity party, to talk about what could go wrong. But then I kind of feel like then you've got to pull yourself out of it. You have to reframe it. We've done podcasts before, episodes. I say the wrong word all the time here, where there's one, it's really like reframing your thinking, your stinking thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we got to do. We have to sit in it and we have to identify it and we have to be okay going, of course I'm anxious with this. I should be anxious with this. I love my job. I want to do the best that I can. Why am I anxious, right? Like then you got to kind of analyze all of this. Like, okay, I'm anxious because of this, but is that really going to happen?
Yeah.
That's not really going to happen. Okay, it's probably not going to happen next. All right, but what if this happens? All right, so if this happens, there's a couple plans, right? So preparing for it, get yourself in a place where it doesn't completely stop you.
Yeah, it's good to put things into perspective. Maybe that thing is going to happen.
Okay.
Is it the end of the world?
What's the worst thing out of that?
Exactly.
Right. So what if it does pour on you in the middle of the 5K, which is exactly what happened?
I was a little salty with Krista Jones on Saturday.
Sure
but
was.
let me tell you, the community showed up
Sure did.
and showed me why we were there.
Sure did. So last Saturday for us, which, don't know when you're going to listen to this episode, but for us, it was May 31st of 2025. We did this big event at a beautiful orchards, Barton Orchards, that is locally to us. And we had about 850, 900 people registered to run, probably another 100-ish coming out for the rock part, about 1,000 people. And we kept looking at the weather. And Wednesday, I was like, maybe we should cancel. And then I just felt, no, you do this for cancer patients. You want to talk about a curveball? Cancer's a curveball. Running in the rain is not. So I'm like, you're right. Okay. All right, it's on. And then really that morning, everything shifted. We thought we had a pretty good, place of only a 20%, but man, like midnight that night, it was like 85%, 90%, 100%. And I actually went live that morning because a lot had happened. Barton Orchards lost an employee the night before, literally putting up lights for our event. He passed away from a heart attack. We had a volunteer that we know and love, a family that's going through a really bad crisis. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so you know what I did? I went live and I talked about all my fears. I said, all of this is going on and I am so anxious. And I said, but in the middle of it all, this is first world problems, right? The fact that I have got a nor'easter in the middle of this. Come, run, don't run, do a lap, don't do any. Let's think about people that have a diagnosis. That's anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
This is I'm going to run in the rain and I am going to get wet as can be. And ooh, these poor people were wet.
And it was chilly.
And I said, come, run, don't run, but just be with us. Don't stay home and stay isolated. Just come out. And we feel 600 people probably ran.
Yeah, they showed up.
Out of like 850, 900. And then a couple hundred showed up and said, I'm sorry, I'm a baby. I'm just going to rock. So we probably had 800 people out of the 1,000 we were expecting because I said, I'm just going to identify my fears. And then I'm going to take them and I'm going to one by one go. I don't have cancer. That's an anxiety type diagnosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm healthy. I'm going to get wet. I'm going to be a little bit cold. What does that mean? I need a change of clothes. I'm going to need a half hour to get warm again so I'm not blue. I'm going to be mad at Krista Jones for a little bit, but then I'm going to be okay.
I was only spicy until like 8 o'clock.
Gosh, that's a lot of spiciness though if you started at 5 a.m.
Oh, I wasn't awake at 5 a.m.
You hit it well. You hit it well.
Listen, I put on my game face.
You did good.
And then people started showing up and I forgave you.
Thank you.
And then I went down the slip and slide.
And then everything was fine. And then you were really wet. And I was like, look at her. Joyful, being joyful. So, all right, let's talk about the tools then. Let's talk about the things that we need in order for us to pull ourselves out of it. So I heard from a therapist friend, her 5-4-3-2-1 rule. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not.
Okay. So when she gets anxious and she feels absolutely crazy, she does this 5-4-3-2-1 method. And I thought it was really good. So what she does is when she's spiraling out of control, she focuses on 5 things that she can see in front of her. She focuses on 5 different things, right? So you are in the middle of our superhero event and it is raining. And that's kind of what I did this weekend. I focused on the child that was gleefully laughing. I focused on Chantel that was going down the slip and slide, doing the best hollow body Superman hold I've ever seen in my life. I focused on, the man that was, eating the donuts and like his child was trying to take away from it. I focused on the fact that the employees at Barton Orchard all showed up in solidarity for somebody that they lost the night before. I focused on the beauty of the day, even in the middle of that, right? So 5 things. What can you focus on? What can you look at to get yourself out of your head? What do you feel? 4 things that you feel other than anxiety. Joy to see all these people that came out. Happiness that they still had something great to do. Like, what 4 things can you feel out of this? 3, what do you hear other than the negative? What things do you hear about this? This is an amazing event. Thank you for not canceling the event. You guys fed my family, right? 2 things that you can smell. Don't be snarky because I can't smell since COVID 4 years ago. But a lot of people would smell.
I could smell bacon.
It provides happiness, and bacon is happiness.
Bacon is happiness.
Bacon is love.
And apple cider donuts. That's what I could smell.
2 things that you can smell because smelling completely derails anxiety.
That's good to know.
And taste. Something that you can either chew, gum, right? You're refocusing. Taste. Get yourself some ice cream.
Or bacon.
Unless you're a vegetarian, and then you can have fake bacon, but I don't recommend that. That stuff is gross. It's not good for you. I mean, you may say bacon isn't fake bacon. I don't know that that's good either.
I saw this video where they were making bacon out of mushrooms.
That might be interesting. I might eat that.
And like people were saying that like they really thought it was bacon.
Yeah.
So I want to find it. I want to try it.
Joy around a meal. Joy around something that you like. Put it, right? So that's what she does. She uses her senses. And I was like, this is amazing. So I'm like, I'm stealing that. She's like, it's not mine. I go, great, I'm taking it. But it's really powerful to get you out of taking anxiety and having it into a full-blown panic attack, which we know can be the result of something like this. So we're here to help you not do that. And if you are a parent listening to this, 5-4-3-2-1 is really a great tool for you to use with children. And then things like rewiring these patterns, right? So instead of saying something like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail, rewire your wording. It's all about your wording, right? We have a friend right now that is dealing with a loved one that has to be in a hospital for some things that are going on mentally. And instead of saying things like, you hear psych ward and you hear all these things, like I said to her, I said, can you say, yeah, you're in a mental wellness portion of the wing, right? So instead of things like I'll fail, can you say, all right, even if this is hard, I can handle it. Because really, what does failing look like? Failing looks like you're not trying it to me. You're not failing if you're trying it. right? Maybe journaling, things that after it's over, you can say, well, this is what I did. And this is kind of where I started spiraling. So you can identify it. And next time you can go, all right, I got to redo something here because this is where it went to hell in a handbasket for me. And then breath work is really important. Jennifer Green, who was on our board of directors, clinical therapist, amazing, is really, really big into the whole mind wellness portion of things, like doing this inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold that. Because even you, I know that you worked a lot with that kind of therapy too. That is just making you stop and meditate in the middle of a moment where, you got to release all this clutter, right?
Yeah, it's about grounding yourself.
And body movements. Your body producing cortisol really in the moment when your, dopamine and all of this stuff is kicking in. Move. Take a walk away from the situation, right? Walk away and breathe and walk. That's endorphins. That will help you. Endorphins are a very positive neurotransmitter, right? Walk, run, walk and scream.
And you can do your 5 things while you walk.
Absolutely.
5 things you see in nature. What do you smell? I don't suggest tasting things along your route, but.
Well, maybe you bring your donut with you.
There you go. Walk with your donut.
Or your bacon. I know that you love your bacon. And limit. There's things you've got to limit in the middle of this, right? We had a situation at Superhero. I walk in and we're like, oh my gosh, and we're behind and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if you noticed, Chantel, but literally I listened and then I turned and I completely walked away. It was too much for me. I had to just decompress. And that could mean social media. That could mean caffeine. Stop. Anything that is going to trigger you to overstimulate you, right? That jacks up your cortisol. Get away from it. The person that is completely spiraling out of control, you can be like, I get it, and it is okay. But if you are also a person that can fall on you, after you walk away. Just walk, not completely from the person. Give yourself 5 minutes so you can digest the situation. Because, if your anxiety is going to spike every time you're around certain people, every time you open up social media, right? Then maybe the anxiety isn't the problem. Maybe your algorithm is. Maybe it's what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. You're causing sometimes your own anxiety.
100%.
If you're anxious, don't get on Facebook in the middle of the night because your brain is now stimulated. You're going to not be able to sleep for another hour. Get off. Why are you doing that? Figure it out. Identify it. Move on. What'd you think?
I think I just picked up a whole lot of skills. I'm going to use them. One of my daughters tends to be more anxious, and I'm going to use some of these things with her.
Yeah. And you're not going to walk it out right every time.
Nope.
My daughter today, I walked it out horribly. I have been trying everything with her. And then today I was like, I can't cuddle her anymore. And I yelled at her, because I also, felt, my gosh, like, stop. I need you to see, like, you can do this. You can, And so listen, we're not going to get it right sometimes, ever. Listen, we're going to get it right and wrong. As parents, we're going to get it right and wrong when we're facing it. But here's the bottom line. Anxiety is not a flaw. It's a feature, I guess you could say. It's here to warn us, to wake us up, to protect us, sometimes to even push you. It's like a flight or fight, right? We need that. Cavemen had that. We need that. But, if you are keeping yourself from living because of it, that's the problem. You don't need to white knuckle through it. You need to see it. You need to identify it. You need to embrace it. And then you move on. And if you can't do that, then there's help, because there is hope. There's nothing wrong with you. There's also real, trained, compassionate human beings that'll walk you through it if it is a little much right now, because 80% of us, if not more, need it. The 20% that say they don't, they might be bearing it. You're not weak for needing help. You're courageous if you choose it. And guess what? If nobody has told you this today, you are doing a dang good job just holding yourself together. So this is what Chantel and I say. You need to be kind to yourself, and you need to be kind to others. I'm Krista Jones. I hope that today you found something for yourself, found something for people you love, so that you guys can all figure out how to normalize. Most pieces of anxiety together. And until we see you next time, we want you to look us up at sparrowsnestcharity.org. We want you to talk about this, and we want you to make this a common discussion. This is something you shouldn't be embarrassed of. Until next time, take care of yourself. We love you.